All right, so today we're diving into something that I think we all hear about, but maybe don't totally get.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
VPNs, like virtual private networks. I mean, I know they're supposed to like make you more secure online, but
Exactly.
how do they actually do that?
Yeah, it can be a little bit of a black box, right?
It's not a little black box for me.
Well, luckily, we've got an expert on hand to help us out. So for this deep dive, we're going to be looking at this fantastic essay by Jörg-Owe, who really breaks down the whole world of VPNs.
Yeah, from like what they are to all the different ways people use them. I mean, we're talking the good, the bad, even like the legal stuff.
Absolutely. And what's really great is he explains it all really clearly. You don't have to be a tech whiz to follow along.
That's good. Because I'm definitely not. But seriously, I think knowing about VPNs is like essential these days. I mean, with all the cyber threats and everyone worried about their privacy, it's like, how do you even stay safe online?
Exactly. And that's what we're hoping to help you figure out today, using Jörg-Owe's insights as our guide. So where do we even start with something like this?
Well, Schneppet actually starts by breaking down the different types of VPNs. I thought that was really helpful. Because, like, I didn't even realize there were multiple types.
Right.
So maybe we should start there, too.
Yeah, let's do that. So first up, we have what Jörg-Owe calls remote access VPNs. Now, have you ever worked from home and had to, like, log into your company's network?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Well, chances are you're using a remote access VPN. It basically creates a secure connection between your device and your company's network.
So it's like, even though I'm on my home Wi-Fi, it's like I'm actually in the office?
Exactly. And it's like a tunnel, directly to your company's server. All the data you send and receive is encrypted.
Encrypted?
Yeah, so it's basically scrambled up so no one can read it unless they have the key to unscramble it.
Ooh, sneaky.
And that's one of the main ways VPNs keep your information safe.
Gotcha. So remote access VPNs, that's for individuals. What about like bigger companies?
Well, for that, you'd have site-to-site VPNs, which Schneppet also talks about. And that's exactly what it sounds like. It connects entire networks together securely.
So like if a company has multiple offices.
Exactly. It's like creating a virtual bridge between those offices.
So all their data is protected as it travels between locations.
Yep. Exactly. And Schneppet gets even more specific, breaking site-to-site VPNs down into intranet and extranet VPNs.
Okay, wait, so what's the difference there?
So an intranet VPN connects networks that are all within the same organization. So like think of a company with a headquarters and a bunch of branch offices. They all be linked together by an intranet VPN.
Okay, that makes sense.
But then an extranet VPN, that's when a company connects its network to the network of a different organization.
Ooh, like a partner company or something.
Exactly. It allows them to share data and resources securely.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a crucial tool for businesses these days.
And then there's this whole other type of VPN Schneppet talks about. Cloud VPNs.
Right, and this is really interesting because it reflects how much our work and our data has moved to the cloud. Platforms like AWS and Azure.
Yeah, it seems like everything's in the cloud these days.
Exactly. So a cloud VPN is basically a way to securely connect to those cloud resources.
So it's kind of like a remote access VPN, but for the cloud.
In a way, yeah. It's about creating that secure tunnel to your data and applications no matter where they're physically located.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got remote access for individuals, site-to-site for connecting networks, and cloud VPNs for all that cloudy stuff.
Exactly. So those are your basic VPN types as laid out by Schneppet. But now, how does all this actually work?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. How does a VPN actually make my connection secure?
All right, so here's the basic idea, and Schneppet does a great job of explaining this. When you connect to a VPN, you're basically creating a secure tunnel between your device and the internet.
Okay, so I picture a literal tunnel.
Well, not literally, but you can think of it that way. And all the data that travels through that tunnel is encrypted. Like we talked about earlier, it's scrambled up to keep it safe from prying eyes.
So even if someone manages to intercept my data, they can't read it.
Exactly. Because they don't have the key to decrypt it.
So it's like a secret code that only I have.
Basically, yeah. And it's not just about encrypting your data. Schneppet points out that VPNs also mask your IP address.
My IP address?
Yeah, it's basically like your online address. It can be used to identify you and your location.
Well, that's kind of creepy.
Right. But when you use a VPN, your traffic gets routed through the VPN server.
So websites and stuff see the VPN's IP address instead of mine.
Exactly. So it makes it a lot harder to track you online.
So if I'm browsing, websites I maybe shouldn't be browsing, they won't know it's me.
Well, it makes it harder, yes.
Okay, that's good to know.
And then there's another really popular use for VPNs that Schneppet talks about, getting around geo-restrictions.
Oh, yeah, like when you're trying to watch a show that's only available in a certain country.
Exactly. So because your IP address is masked and you appear to be browsing from the VPN's location, you can access content that might be blocked in your actual location.
So I could pretend to be in England and watch all the BBC shows.
Potentially, yes. Although streaming services are getting smarter about detecting VPNs, so it's becoming a bit of a cat and mouse game. But it's still a possibility.
Okay, so VPNs hide my IP address, they encrypt my data. Is there anything else going on behind the scenes?
Well, Schneppet also goes into a bit of detail about VPN protocols.
Protocols. What are those?
Basically, they're the set of rules that govern how the VPN connection works, like how the data is encrypted, how it's transmitted, all that technical stuff.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure I need to know all the nitty-gritty details there.
Fair enough. But it's good to be aware that there are different protocols, each with their own strengths and weaknesses.
So some are more secure than others?
Exactly. Schneppet goes into quite a bit of detail, but a couple of the most common ones you might hear about are OpenVPN and L2TPIPsec.
Okay. I'll file those names away in case I ever need them.
Sounds good.
So, okay, I think we have a pretty good grasp on what VPNs are and how they work, thanks to Schneppet.
Yeah, he does a great job of laying it all out.
But now I'm curious about how people actually use them in the real world. I mean, we talked about working from home and watching TV shows.
Yeah.
What else are they good for?
Well, Schneppet covers a pretty wide range of applications. We already touched on corporate VPNs, which are basically essential for businesses with multiple locations or employees working remotely.
Right, keeping all that sensitive data safe.
Exactly. And then there are mobile VPNs, which Schneppet points out are super important for anyone who's using their smartphone or tablet on public Wi-Fi.
Ooh, yeah, because those can be really risky.
Totally. A mobile VPN helps to protect your data even when you're on an unsecured network. But honestly, one of the biggest reasons individuals use VPNs is just for general online privacy and security, something Schneppet really emphasizes.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like every day there's a new story about some company collecting our data or some hacker stealing information. It's scary.
Totally. And a VPN can help protect you from that by encrypting your traffic and masking your IP address. It makes it much harder for companies to track your browsing habits and for hackers to target you.
So it's like adding an extra layer of armor to my online presence.
Exactly. And of course, there's the whole accessing geo-restricted content thing, which Schneppet mentions again as a pretty big draw for a lot of people.
Okay, so lots of good reasons to use a VPN, but are there any downsides? Is there anything I should be worried about?
Well, Schneppet does bring up some potential disadvantages.
Lay it on me.
Okay, so one thing to be aware of is that your privacy is only as good as the VPN provider you choose. I mean, they are handling your data, so you need to be sure you trust them.
Ooh, so it's I'm trading one privacy risk for another.
Well, not necessarily. Schneppet's really clear on this. You need to choose a provider that has a strict no-logs policy. That means they don't keep track of your browsing activity.
Gotcha. So do your research, choose wisely.
Exactly. Another thing people worry about is speed. Some folks think using a VPN will slow down their internet.
And is that true?
It can be, but it depends. The encryption process and the routing of your traffic through a VPN server can add some lag. But a good provider with a fast network of servers can actually minimize that. And sometimes, if your ISP is throttling your bandwidth, a VPN can actually make your connection faster.
Interesting. So it's not always a bad thing.
Right. And Schneppet points out something else you need to be aware of, which is that VPNs aren't legal everywhere.
Wait, really?
Yeah, some countries have banned or heavily restrict the use of VPNs. So if you're traveling, it's important to know the local laws.
That's good to know. I don't want to end up in internet jail or something.
Right. Schneppet also cautions against using free VPNs.
Yeah, those always sound a little too good to be true.
Exactly. They often come with limitations like data caps or slow speeds, and they might even log your data or inject ads into your browsing. Or worse, some free VPNs have been known to bundle malware with their software.
Yikes. So stick with a reputable paid provider.
Exactly. You get what you pay for, right?
Right. And one last thing that I thought was really interesting that Schneppet talks about is that even with a VPN, you're not completely anonymous online.
Yeah, he really emphasizes that. A VPN can help mask your IP address and encrypt your data, But there are other ways you can be tracked online.
Like what?
Well, things like cookies, browser fingerprinting, even just the information you voluntarily share on websites.
So it's not a magic bullet.
Exactly. It's a powerful tool for enhancing your privacy, but it's not a guarantee of complete anonymity.
Okay, so VPNs. Good for security, good for privacy, good for getting around annoying restrictions.
And good for keeping your data safe on public Wi-Fi.
Right, that too.
Yeah.
But choose your provider carefully, and don't expect to become completely invisible online. Okay, so now that we've covered all that, Schneppat goes pretty deep into the technical details of VPN protocols, like which ones are the most secure, which ones are the fastest, all that stuff.
Yeah, he gets into the weeds a bit there.
And to be honest, I think that's probably a bit too technical for our purposes today.
I agree.
But if you're really interested in learning more about the different protocols, I definitely recommend checking out Schneppat's essay.
He really breaks it down well.
He does. Okay, so let's skip ahead to something I think everyone will be interested in, which is how do I actually choose a VPN provider? Like, there are so many out there.
Right. It can be overwhelming, but Schneppat gives some really helpful advice.
Like what?
Well, first of all, he says, make sure the VPN works on all your devices, like your phone, your laptop, your tablet, whatever you use to go online.
Right, because what's the point if it only works on one thing?
Exactly. And then you want to look at the encryption protocols they offer. He recommends sticking with OpenVPN or WireGuard, since those are generally considered the most secure.
Okay, those names are starting to sound familiar.
Good. And then, probably the most important thing is to check their logging policy. You want a provider that clearly states they don't keep logs of your online activity.
Right, because we just talked about how important that is.
Exactly. And finally, take a look at their customer support. You want to be sure you can get help if you need it.
Makes sense. So device compatibility, encryption protocols, logging policy, and customer support. Got it.
Yep. And Schneppat actually lists a few well-known VPN providers in his essay, like NordVPN, Surfshark, ExpressVPN, and a bunch of others.
Okay, so we'll put links to those in the show notes in case anyone wants to check them out.
Perfect.
So big picture now, what are some of the trends Schneppat's seeing in the VPN market?
Well, he points out that VPN usage is way up globally, and I think that makes sense.
Yeah, with all the privacy concerns these days.
Exactly. Plus, more people are working remotely, so they need secure connections. And then there's the whole issue of censorship in some parts of the world. People are using VPNs to get around that.
So VPNs are kind of becoming a necessity for a lot of people.
I think so. And Schneppat also mentions that streaming services are getting a lot better at blocking VPN traffic.
Oh, man. So it's an ongoing battle.
Yep. And he really stresses that you should avoid free VPNs.
Yeah, we talked about why those can be risky.
Right. They might log your data, inject ads, or even expose you to malware.
So stick with a reputable paid provider.
Okay, got it.
Good.
So now for the super serious part, what about the legal stuff surrounding VPNs? Like, are they even allowed?
Well, Schneppat gets into this too. It's actually pretty complicated.
Oh boy.
VPNs are legal in most countries, but there are definitely exceptions.
Like where?
Well, Schneppat mentions North Korea, Belarus, China as examples of places where VPNs are either banned or heavily regulated.
Interesting. So it's not just about the technology, it's about the politics too.
Absolutely. And even if VPNs are legal, it's important to remember that using one doesn't give you a free pass to break the law.
Right. It's not like a get-out-of-jail-free card. Exactly. Schneppat makes a clear distinction between using a VPN for legitimate purposes, like protecting your privacy or accessing legal content, versus using it for illegal activities like hacking or copyright infringement.
So basically, don't do anything illegal, even if you're using a VPN.
Exactly. And he talks about how companies need to have clear policies in place about VPN usage.
Makes sense. You don't want to accidentally do something that gets you in trouble.
Right. And Schneppat also brings up this interesting point about how it can be really difficult to hold VPN providers accountable if something goes wrong.
Like if they're not following their own privacy policy or something.
Exactly. Because there are no international regulations around VPNs, it can be hard to track down who's responsible when there's a problem.
So it's kind of a legal gray area in some ways.
It is, but Schneppat thinks that as digital privacy becomes more and more important, we'll probably see more countries enacting laws to regulate VPNs.
Like to protect users and make sure providers are being responsible. Interesting. So what does Schneppat think the future holds for VPNs in general?
Well, he seems to think they're only going to become more popular. He predicts continued growth in the market, driven by privacy concerns, censorship, and the rise of remote work.
So basically what we were just talking about.
Exactly. And he thinks we'll see stricter regulations in some places, but also more awareness among the general public about what VPNs are and how they can be used.
Which is hopefully what we're doing here today.
Absolutely.
And Schneppet also mentioned some specific challenges that VPN developers are facing, right?
Yeah, like making VPNs work better on mobile devices. That's a big one.
Because more and more people are using their phones and tablets for everything.
Exactly. And then there's the constant need to improve security features to keep up with hackers.
It's an arms race.
Kind of, yeah. And Schneppet thinks we'll see a lot of growth in the VPN market in developing countries, like in Asia and the Middle East.
Wow, so VPNs are going global.
They are.
Okay, so big takeaway from all this. VPNs are a powerful tool for protecting your privacy and security online. They can help you access blocked content, keep your data safe on public Wi-Fi, and just generally make your online experience a lot less creepy.
Absolutely. Schneppet makes a really strong case for why everyone should be using a VPN.
Yeah, he does. But like we talked about, it's important to choose a reputable provider with a good logging policy, and don't expect a VPN to make you completely anonymous.
Right. It's a tool, not a magic solution.
Exactly. Okay, so final thought for our listeners. Given everything we've learned from Schneppet, how do you see VPNs fitting into your online life? Are you already using one? Are you considering it now? And what other questions about digital security and privacy does all this raise for you?
Yeah, let us know.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
See you next time.